potentially controversial topic I wanted to talk about. Do you need to learn the names of the notes if you're a guitar player or a bass player or a ukulele player? I have an answer. I'm just going to tell you my answer right now. I'm just going to tell you what I believe the answer is. Don't get upset. Yes. Yes, you kind of do need to learn the names of the notes on the guitar, but you only need to learn some of them. What do I mean by that? You do not need to learn what every single fret note name is. So you don't need to go like, oh, this is a C. Oh, this right here, that is an F. Oh, this right here, this is a D sharp. You do not need to know all of that, in my opinion. Could it be helpful? Sure. In some situations, that's going to be nice, but you don't need to know all that. What do I believe you need to know? I believe that you need to know the names of the notes for the E string and the A string up to the 12th fret. And if you know up to the 12th fret, that means you kind of know all of them. And I'll talk to you about that a little bit. So what does that end up being? That ends up being like 12 times 2. But then there's also the zeros. So it's like 13 times 2, which is 26. So I'm going to say you need to know the names of 26 of the frets. Okay, there aren't 26 frets, but you know what I mean. Hello, my name is Stuart. Welcome to Guitar Lessons with Stuart. 26 notes. That actually sounds like a lot, but it's not that bad. It's not that bad. So that means like you need to know this is an E. You need to know this is a G. This is an A. This is a B. This is a B flat. This is a D. This is an E flat. This is a C. It's a lot of notes. Kinda, I guess. I mean, I'm okay. What am I doing here? Am I trying to convince you have a lot of work to do, or am I trying to convince you don't have that much work to do? Let's go with you don't have that much work to do. You could do this. Come on, you got this. I'll give you some recommendations on how you can get started learning those note names. I'll even help you get started, and I'll show you some ways you can practice getting more familiar with all those notes. But for now, and more importantly for the time being, I would like to quickly discuss why it's so important to learn the names of the notes on those top 2 strings and less important to know the names of the notes on the other 4. The most useful, straightforward, and practical reason for knowing the names on those top 2 strings is so that you can play bar chords and scales and know what chords and scales you're playing. For example, let's say you need a B flat major scale. So what you need to do is you find the B flat note on one of those low 2 strings. In this case, a B flat is the 6th fret on the E string, and then you build the major chord shape from there. B flat major. I only knew that because I knew that this note here was a B flat. Or let's say we needed a C sharp minor bar chord. Okay, well there's no regular open chord for a C sharp minor like there is for C or G or any of those. So we need to find a C sharp note, which in this case is the 4th fret on the A string, and then we build a minor chord shape from there, and there's a C sharp minor chord. I would not know what the names of these chords are if it weren't for knowing where those root notes of each chord is. I think my grammar got a little mixed up there, but you might be following along. Maybe. We'll see. To hear my voice, do you know why my voice is so gravelly and deep? I just did another video on Pink Floyd's song, Wish You Were Here, and it was one of the most traumatic experiences of my life. And I yelled so much. Now my voice is, listen to this. Oh, I can sing low, look. No, that's the low C is not going to happen. Listen to that voice. Should I just talk like this for the rest of the video? I think I'm going to do it. We got slightly off track there. Same thing applies with scales. So we just talked about how the note names let you know what bar chords you're playing. For scales, it's the exact same thing. Let's say, the minor pentatonic scale. If we wanted an A minor pentatonic scale, we just find an A note on the low E string, which happens to be the 5th fret, and we play the minor pentatonic scale from there. Well, but what if we needed an E flat minor pentatonic scale? Then we find the E flat note, which happens to be the 11th fret, and we do the scale from there. One of your friends that you're jamming with says, hey, let's have a jam session in the key of E flat. I don't know why they would do that to you, but let's say they did it. You could just find that scale because you know where the E flat is right there on the low E string. So there's one very, I believe, convincing reason to know the names of the notes on the low 2 strings. The other reason to make sure that you know the names of the notes on those top 2 strings is less immediately useful, it's less direct, but still just as important, if not more important. It's all kind of intertwined, but as you get more familiar with knowing the names of those chords and the names of the scales, you'll have a better understanding of how all the different notes and chords fit together. That'll help as you get more into music theory, as you communicate with other musicians. It's just going to help you be a more well-rounded musician as you progress. The reason why it's less important on the other 4 strings is because we don't use those other 4 strings to build chords and scales nearly as often. You still can build chords and scales starting from the other strings, but the low strings, the E and the A, that's where the real magic happens. So you want to prioritize learning the names of the notes on the E and the A. Don't worry so much about the other 4. There are many ways that you can go about learning the names of the notes on those 2 lowest strings. This is but one way that I present to you to begin that journey. I recommend that you learn the C major scale on each of those strings. Let me show it to you now. On the E string, the C major scale is going to be the notes, grammar, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. It's just the alphabet going from E, F, G, then you go back to A, B, C, D, E. That's the alphabet. And I made the alphabet so confusing right now. Check this out. Open E string is E. 1st fret is F. 3rd fret is G. 5th fret is A. 7th fret is B. 8th fret is C. 10th fret is D. And then the 12th fret is E again. So that was 0 E, 1 F, 3 G, 5A, 7B, 8C, 10D, 12E. We got it. That's a lot of notes. I know you don't have it memorized yet. Make yourself a little chart and just play through that. Say the names of the notes out loud if that helps, but just get used to those note names. Notice we don't have any flats or sharps yet. You can deal with that later. We're just doing a little bit at a time. On the A string, you're going to do the same idea. This time we're going to start with A, and it's going to be different frets for each of the notes. Check it out. 0 is A, 2 is B, 3 is C, 5 is D, 7 is E, 8 is F, 10 is G, and then 12 is A again. Like I said, I'm not expecting you to have this memorized right now, but working on each of those notes on those lowest 2 strings, great way to start, in my opinion. To practice going over those, here's what I recommend. Grab yourself a fake book, or just online search for fake book, or sometimes they call it a lead sheet where it has the melody and the chords. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for some music that has a melody written out and some chords written out. And I would like you to just look at the chords and find the root note of each chord on one of the top 2 strings. So let's say the chord says A minor 7. Then you're going to look for an A on one of the top 2 strings. Then it says the next chord it says is a D13, and you go, okay, I need to find a D. Then the next chord it says it's a B flat major 7, and you say, okay, I need to find a B flat. It'll take some time, it'll be tedious, but by grabbing one of those fake books or lead sheets or something, that by finding the root note of each chord, you are practicing finding those notes on the strings and then you're going to be the king of note names. I have another more controversial topic I would like to briefly discuss, which is this. As a guitarist, do you need to learn how to read sheet music? Do you need to learn how to read traditional notation, standard notation, as opposed to reading tablature or just reading chords or just playing by ear? And my answer to this question, I mean, believe it or not, I have a lot to say about it. But my quick answer, do you need to? I'm going to give a hard no as my answer to that question. Should you? That depends on you, and it depends on what your goals are. But do you need to? Absolutely not. There are countless incredible guitarists, incredible musicians, songwriters, people in cover bands, all sorts of great guitarists have had very fulfilling musical careers, whether financially or spiritually, emotionally, creatively, without reading any music. So I think it's hard to say that you need to read music. Should you? If you would like to learn everything there is about music, then learning to read sheet music sounds like a great idea. If you're not sure that you're interested in that kind of thing, you just want to play some songs, write some songs, maybe play in a band, you don't really need to learn how to read music to do that. Additionally, reading music on guitar is kind of problematic. Reading on piano or saxophone, it's a little bit more straightforward. If there's a note written on the page, for the most part, there's one way to play that note. On guitar, for any note written on the page, there are often 6 different ways to play that note depending on the situation, and it can be really tough to learn what's the most effective way to play that note there. I don't know why I said just then. I should have just said my sentence instead of saying but I chose to say and then discuss it for a while. If you would like to learn how to read sheet music, I'm going to go ahead and recommend the Hal Leonard Guitar Method Book 1. It's boring. It's a boring book, but it does a really great job of starting from the ground zero. Is that what that means? I feel like ground zero has a much darker connotation these days. It starts from nothing and builds up into some pretty real note reading skills. Boring book, does its job real well, very easy to follow. Hal Leonard's Guitar Method Book 1. Let's summarize. Do you need to learn the names of the notes on the guitar? Yes, but only on the E and A strings. The rest is all extra credit. Do you need to learn how to read music as a guitarist? No. Should you learn to read music? The ultimate thing that's going to answer that question for you is, do you have any interest in learning to read standard notation? If your answer is, yeah, I kind of would like to learn how to read music, then absolutely do it. If you're like, I'm not sure, sounds like a lot of work, I don't know if I'm really interested, it is a lot of work and it takes a lot of time. And depending on where your guitar playing takes you, you may not have any real reason to read music. So if you're not interested, I'm going to say don't worry about it. And that's what I have to say about that.